me set the scene. Social media has filled up over the last 2 weeks with reactions to this Shein influencer brand trip that's being labelled as straight up propaganda for the uber fast fashion brand, using influencer content in an attempt to debunk the myths of their hugely unethical labour practices. I've seen dozens of videos absolutely roasting the 6 influencers who went to China on this brand trip for Shein to prove to their followers that Shein's factories are in fact a lot more slay than they are slavery. It's so easy to isolate these influencers, but we must not fall into that trap. We must go a lot deeper to actually understand what's going on, and when we do that, we realize that the influencers are kind of the victims in a sense in this situation. Did they themselves contribute to this situation where they are now receiving thousands of hate comments? Of course they did, and they do have a duty of care to their followers to only spread information that is true and accurate and is actually authentic. However, to direct all of our anger towards them and let the fast fashion industry and fast fashion brands as a whole off the hook instead of really digging into their consumerist, capitalist, climate destroying, rotten core would be to misplace our energies. I'm Shara from the Green Stocking Society, and I'm bringing you the meta-analysis of the Shein situation, if you will. So let's go. If you're unfamiliar with Shein as a fashion brand, I've made reference to them in a lot of my other videos where I've dived into the sustainability claims of several other brands, but in a nutshell, here's the story. Shein is a fashion company that is completely dominating the fast fashion market online, having exploded in 2020. Every single day they update their website with thousands of products. These clothes are cheap, flimsy, bad for the planet, and the people who make them are treated terribly. In one audit of nearly 700 suppliers, 83% were shown to be operating with major risks, and a Channel 4 documentary has revealed that the workers making these clothes work 18-hour days. They're paid as low as 3 pence per hour, and they're only allowed 1 day off per month, which violates China's labour laws. These are the facts, and I say facts, not rumours or myths, because they are facts that these influencers were hired by Shein to essentially cover up through this influencer brand trip.
I want to feel that people feel happy and passionate about what they do, just like I do, you know, and that like they're happy to show up every day and do what they do and be able to work with a brand like Shein and work for this manufacturer.
Like many others, I've heard a lot of misinformation, so I enjoyed getting to see it firsthand.
I think my biggest takeaway from this trip is to be an independent thinker, get the facts and see it with your own 2 eyes.
I'm not gonna lie, I really expected it to look like it does in the movies, like really dark and dingy, but I was really surprised to see each piece handled with care. I was pleasantly surprised that a lot of the workload was robotic. The girl was telling me that they get a nap time after lunch. How crazy is that?
I think I went in there not expecting the best conditions for the workers. But I was pleasantly surprised how clean it was.
The place is like, again, not some big giant facility, but they have such a great system. I saw people listening to their music. I was like, okay, I do this at home too.
This was a planned visit to some very specific locations to present an overall image that does not align with the general experience of people working in Shein's supply chain. That's why it's being labelled as propaganda. But one interesting thing that I've noticed about this situation, which not a lot of other people are commenting on, is that even if all of Shein's factories operated in this way that is being shown in the footage, and all of them looked like this, which is quite a stretch for the imagination, but give it a go, they would still not be sustainable. Their carbon emissions, the fact that their clothes will end up in landfill for hundreds and hundreds of years, and the fact that they are massively contributing to overconsumption and encouraging it through all of the Shein influencers that they sponsor TikTok hauls for. All of that just goes completely unmentioned. Making items at the scale of production that Shein has is fundamentally incompatible with an ethical supply chain, as well as with a planet that has finite resources.
You can't finish Shein like you can't finish TikTok.
The pressure of this breakneck speed of production creates unsafe working environments, and the really cheap prices of the clothes essentially means that that cost has to be absorbed somewhere else, usually by the workers or by the environment. And we love costs to be absorbed by the environment because it's completely invisible until, you know, the planet is literally burning up in a few decades. By the way that these influencers were talking about their experiences, it was so clear that they were not experts. They had no idea what they were really talking about. They had no idea of the nuances involved within sustainability, and so that makes them completely the wrong spokespeople for this entire topic of conversation. This is exactly why we need independent audits and certifications and accreditations and independent journalists. We don't need an influencer's take on a brand that they have already decided that they agree with. They are not the person that needs to be convinced, and they are not the right person to verify any claims. The fact that this isn't immediately obvious and we just take an influencer's word for things because we like their content or their lifestyle is a really clear indicator that something has gone quite wrong with who we consider to be an authority in terms of where we get correct information. This article puts it well by writing that there is an unseriousness to sponsored content, the cheery, upbeat music, the approval process videos go through before they can be published, that makes it an insufficient response to workers who say they're subjected to illegally long workdays and withheld wages. If you don't already know, I have a background in philosophy and in particular in social epistemology. So this is a field of philosophy that looks at knowledge and how knowledge is transferred between people, how it's withheld, and how that creates different systems of power, of knowledge, and of ignorance. In this field, we have this concept of epistemic authority. So this idea of who do we trust to give us information? Do we trust scientists? Do we trust politicians? And in relation to this story, do we trust influencers? Why is it that we've come to believe that recommendations from influencers are so valuable to the point where Shein clearly believes that by using influencers they can get through to us as the consumer? They are banking on the idea that we will trust the word of influencers more than we will trust the word of independent journalism. And I guess that's because influencers are seen as being closer to us. They're relatable, they're just like us. They're just like the girl across the road who happens to recommend to you some lipstick that she's started using recently and really likes, you know? The relatability is what builds that trust. Well, it's quite hard actually to make money as an influencer, and brand deals make up a lot of that. So when you're presented with an opportunity to be paid for something, especially as a creator who is part of a marginalized group, so people of color, black people, plus size influencers, they have a much harder time getting these brand deals and sponsorships to be able to be full-time influencers. So when they have an opportunity come up, it's much harder to say no. But of course, once your content starts to be paid and starts to be sponsored, then you are no longer giving that authentic, unbiased view. And this is where it starts to get a bit sad. Brief interlude here to say that if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to hit the like button. Now back to where it starts to get quite sad, because the people that they chose for this trip were deliberately chosen for their diversity. So they chose plus size creators, they chose black creators. Danny DMC, who is the plus size influencer that is receiving most of this backlash, even said that most of the time brands will underpay her as a plus size creator. So obviously she was going to jump at this chance when Shein said that they would pay her quite handsomely. They used the influencer's disadvantage to their gain. And by putting their faces on these marketing messages and this propaganda, they are directing any anger that comes their way to the influencers rather than to them as a brand. It's not actually only these influencers who have chosen to double down on their willful ignorance and give into everything that Shein has to offer as this major brand. Shein's ridiculous success and their reach has meant that they attract a lot of people who are looking to make a quick buck, whether that is people who crawl the internet for trending independent designs and then sell them to Shein as if they were originals, or the designers who want more visibility for their work, so they team up with Shein as part of their Shein X designer program, regardless of the quality of the clothes that their designs are printed on or the ethics and labor conditions behind those clothes either. And it's just a shame, basically, that our society is set up in a way that the easiest way to make money is the most exploitative way as well, which this kind of really highlights. And that's a lot bigger than just individual choices. Aja Barber, the author of the book Consumed, wrote it well when she said that it's crucial for content creators to understand exactly how they can perpetuate bad systems, especially when they don't understand how the system works and who it harms. The Shein debacle has made that painfully clear, but this problem is so much bigger than a handful of ignorant influencers influencers blogging about free trip. It's great that people are starting to call out this kind of behavior from brands, but of course it's much easier to spot with big baddies like Shein and much harder to spot with brands that are maybe doing a better job of greenwashing and do seem to be on the surface quite sustainable, but when you dig deeper, their practices are quite close to the way that Shein operate. And that's why I use this channel to make brand reviews of other brands that are not part of this Gen Z TikTok influencer generation of fast fashion brands, but that are actually replicating a lot of the same processes and falling into the same traps when it comes to the way that they produce their products, probably just with, you know, a better PR team. So to see more videos from me where I do all this research for you and bring you tips and helpful reviews of brands to help you shop more consciously, do hit the subscribe button and also hit the like while you're at it. And next time you're looking for a source of truth and facts about sustainability or ethics, maybe don't go to influencers, but go to independent third-party journalism and accreditations instead. Stay kind, I'll see you next time. Bye!